We're starting to see the crowd move over. Thanks so much. We've got an exciting program lined up today, so thank you all for coming and being here. And there's tons of room up front, so feel free to start making your way over to the stage. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get going with our program. If you don't mind making your way over to the stage.
Good to see you. How are you? Good.
We'll invite John Flavin to kick us off. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Portal Innovations and JP Morgan event. We're so excited to have you here and co-hosting with Prendio BioProcure and Winston & Strawn. We're so lucky and grateful to host this event at JP Morgan with JP Morgan. So thank you so much. And now I will invite John Flavin, CEO and founder of Portal Innovations, to the stage.
Thanks a lot, Anna. I appreciate it. And welcome, everybody. It's so great to see everyone, familiar faces and new faces in the audience. Portal really is a connector. And this is a really great example of how we're connecting important dots right here today in this particular ecosystem. I started Portal Innovations 5 years ago with the concept that as an investment platform, we could be able to look at new alternative investment opportunities, looking at different geographies that were attracting talent, new capital, new ecosystem potential, really buoyed by pharmaceutical companies, as well as academic institutions and medical centers around the country that have been, frankly, in an innovation arms race to attract Boston phenotype faculty into those ecosystems that are more focused on translation. And by virtue of that translation, they need to start companies around their ideas. But in order to start a company in the biotech space, you need more than just that idea. You need to be able to spin that company out of the university and physically be able to locate it somewhere in the right environment. And we know in our industry, that means wet lab space. So I was fortunate to be able to partner with some of the greatest partners really in the world in life sciences, with CalSTRS, the pension fund based right out here in California in Sacramento, CBRE Global Investors, and Trammell Crow, that have focused on bringing this fused model to bear. We think that this formula, where we're bringing crafted capital, which includes money, I mean, you need cash. There's just no replacement for cold, hard cash in biotech. But you need that getting going money. That's really important and really hard to find in emerging ecosystems. So you've got great research institutions, good talent, nice live, work, play environment, but you need a lab, you need money, and you need human capital, meaning people that have pattern recognition, that know how to build the team, how to go from seed to Series A. And that's the vision that we have had and are working towards at Portal. We are fortunate now that we have expanded to really have a national platform, and it's a connected platform. We have developed a software program called Stargaze, which is an AI tool which allows us to connect more dots, use public information, predict who the rising stars in an academic environment might be, where is research colliding, and where do you need to make investments, and what are the right ecosystems to be able to place your bets. One of the things I learned early on in Chicago, a great city, for many years, always had the raw ingredients of building great biotechnology companies, certainly had our share of pharmaceutical companies in the ecosystem and great talent. But the startup ecosystem never really caught fire. And I think a big reason for that, the big reason for the change, is that you now have new innovation-minded faculty coming into the ecosystem, places like University of Chicago, Northwestern, University of Illinois. And with that feedstock and an environment where you're creating the place where they can be together and where you're making smart bets and investments, you have transparency. one thing that works against innovation is opaqueness. And the reason that innovation ecosystems are so high functioning, like Boston and here in the Bay Area and San Diego and other places, is transparency. Everybody knows each other. The dots are all connected. The money knows the science, and the science knows the entrepreneurs. And so what Portal's trying to simulate on a national level within these local markets is connecting those dots within the ecosystem. We like to say we're the farmer's market to that ecosystem. So it's farm to table science in that sense. And being able to connect it to a national grid. You can't work in isolation. None of these ecosystems can grow and thrive if they're working in isolation or somehow feeling competitive to other ecosystems. It's all about kind of connecting the grid. And so that's what we've been doing. And we've had great success. Today, we're going to profile some of the founders, some of the partners that we work with to support these founders. Our whole platform is really based on being an aggregator, connecting dots, but those dots need to be enriched with the best scientists, the best VCs, the best pharma firms, the best banks, the best research analysts, and you name it. And so that's what Portal is. And today you're going to hear a little bit more about the progress that we're making. But when you hear the story, it's kind of like it's early days. It's still early days in this build out, in this movement. It's giving these ecosystems a voice because there are great investment opportunities. And coming back to our investment thesis, by having an alternative and going to different places, you're going to find different innovation and new business models can arise, and we want them to be arising within the Portal landscape. And so that's a very attractive investment opportunity for our partners, great investors that you'll hear from today. So really excited to get the program off and running, but first and foremost, I really wanted to thank everyone for coming today to hear a little bit more about the story. As I said, we're just getting going. This is kind of like a Netflix pilot, and the series will, the early success we're seeing means that this will continue to catch on, and we're excited to be here today and think ahead 5 years, 10 years. How will innovation really transpire across the whole national landscape? We believe it's distributed, and we're here to enable that. So thanks so much.
Thank you, John. I think John's point around opaqueness and transparency is what all about the event. Every year, this event has grown bigger and bigger, and it's about showing what's going on in these new ecosystems. Portal's bringing value and creating value in these new cities of biotech innovation. But what's been very exciting is to see this event grow each year because everyone's excited to see what breakthroughs, what's going on in these new cities. And this is actually our third year co-hosting with JP Morgan, and we're so grateful for that because the first year we got to see that lens through a venture capital perspective. Up here, we had different VC firms talking about why they're investing in newer ecosystems. And then the next year, last year, we had pharma partners, same thing, talking about why they care about these new ecosystems and what they're excited to see breakthrough-wise. And then this year is the most exciting year. It's a proof of concept moment. We'll have founders up here telling the Portal formula and their Portal story of how they built their companies in actuality. So we're very excited to do that and so grateful to partner with Winston & Strawn, Prendio BioProcure, and JP Morgan through that. And to continue the conversation, I'm so honored to introduce to the stage Barbara from JP Morgan. Barbara is the Executive Director of Life Science and Healthcare Startup Banking at JP Morgan, and she's been a pivotal part of the JP Morgan and Portal partnership. It's been a pleasure working with you, Barbara, because she's so unique in how she's a true builder. She really cares about every startup she works with and has this commitment to innovation that I truly admire and inspire to be more like you, Barbara. So I'm excited for Barbara to take it from here. Come on up.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. This is awesome. So I really appreciate the nice intro. So thank you, everybody. And welcome to our 43rd annual JP Morgan conference. So it's such a pleasure and an honor to have you guys here. So Barbara here. I run the national team for startup banking, life sciences, and healthcare. So what it means is think of us as the funnel for the commercial bank, where we are there looking for the most interesting opportunities, technologies, founders to bring them into our banking platform. But before I start describing a little bit more about our partnership and the way that we work with startups, I want us to acknowledge the fact that we are living in a very difficult situation, and we have partners, we have founders, investors that have been affected by the LA fires. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that were not able to make it. So as a community, we need to come together. And of course, we are here to support our clients and partner with the right people to provide the right support. So moving on. And I'm sure you guys are aware that in our conference, not everybody has access to it, because of course you need to either be a public company or have a really good connectivity with the bank. And for that reason, we started to look for partners like you guys, so then we can support the ecosystem. So such a pleasure to be partnering with you for the third year in a row. And part of our business, as I mentioned, is to really support the innovation economy. So what it means is supporting companies that are VC backed and have IP. Most of the time, we're not able to provide a full support, and this is independent of the banking services. And for that reason, we're constantly looking for partners. So when Portal came to us, it was a no-brainer, because you guys have been building the ecosystem and different hubs. So it's very critical for us to provide that support, perhaps not directly, but with the appropriate partners. So in terms of a client journey for everybody to put it up together, we meet founders constantly. So you have an early stage company, and I always talk about that there's two types of clients for us: either the serial entrepreneur who knows how to run a company and knows how to connect to a financial institution like us, and that's the best client because it's so easy. And there's the first-time founder that they don't have connectivity to the ecosystem, and that's when we have the expertise and provide the support to that founder. So they come into our banking platform. We do that connectivity either through the partners or our team, and I have people here, so if you guys can raise your hand. So we have a super talented team here that either they have this specific technical background, either in banking or life sciences. Once the company raises around, or depending on their stage, then we provide different services. It can be either venture debt. We also have a life sciences and a healthcare fund. So depending on where they are in their stage, we can be helpful. Not necessarily with banking services, but with a direct investment. So for us, it's very, very important to get to know you, get to know what you're building, and where you want to be in your journey. Because perhaps there's great companies out there that not necessarily they want to go IPO, but they want to find a pharma partner to get acquired. So we're always there to be supportive. And of course, we have wonderful clients here that have grown in different ways, have moved forward across the bank. And again, we want our clients to grow, and then eventually, we can work on their IPO at some point. So with that, I do want to give you a little bit in terms of an update of what's happening in the conference, which is great. As you guys may know, today we are celebrating and we're putting a lot of emphasis on women's health. So I see a little bit of pink around here, but if you're not wearing pink, and if you have the chance, please go and find some pink, because the entire track for today in our main conference is women's health. So we have great speakers. And of course, there has been a few announcements out there. We have presentations in such as NVIDIA, typical, Gilead, and all of that. We also have a private track where, some of our clients had the opportunity to present there and across different sectors, biopharma, diagnostics, and tools. But what is interesting right now is that I know that everybody, it's a little bit worried in terms of how funding is looking or how it's going to be for 2025. So I'm excited to see that, we continue to see investments. It's not the same as COVID, right? But the investments are continue to be made, especially in early stage, although, we saw that shift of companies receiving funding, mid-stage, growth stage companies that, most of the investors were, investing larger deals into mid-stage and late-stage companies, and that's why we saw that drop in early stage. But I feel like that's going to change a little bit, especially when those companies don't hit their milestones. Then the investors are going to go back and support more the ecosystem. But AI continues to be super strong. Drug discovery. Love seeing more in neuro, which is exciting, right? Pain management, those are areas that are definitely growing, and of course, obesity. But it's how are we actually, what is more interesting is not necessarily obesity, but the technology coming after to really manage that, right? Because of course we have GPL1s and Ozempic, that as soon as you stop taking them, then the patient reverts back to the regular ways. So it's making sure that that patient population continues to be healthy, right? So that will be the technology that actually I feel like it's gonna break through and make that change. So, but with that, thank you so much, guys. It's such a pleasure to have you, and we continue to partner with Portal and give you more support.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Those were wonderful insights. And thank you so much for the partnership. I love how Barbara talks about the innovation economy, and I think it's true when we talk about JP Morgan, it's more of a partnership with their clients. It's really meeting the startup where they are. So thank you, Barbara. Next, we will be moving on to the panel portion of our event, and I am so honored and excited to introduce to the stage one of my colleagues at Portal Innovations, Gianina Varea, who is our Senior Director of Portfolio Development. And there is not a more perfect person to do the panel as a moderator than Gianina. Gianina works in the trenches with the Portal companies day in and day out. And Sarah and Ryan, who will come up here as founders and tell their stories, would agree with me. She's navigating the funding strategies with companies. She's helping them find capital to scale and grow. And I'm so excited that she's here telling the stories with Ryan and Sarah and their partners. So introducing to the stage, Gianina Varea.
Okay, so first of all, good morning. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm really excited today to be able to introduce you to two of our portfolio companies that have recently raised their Series A's alongside their lead investors who made that Series A actually happen. So I want to invite Sarah from March Biosciences, Cassidy with Mission BioCapital, Ryan, come on, just, yeah. We're gonna dive right into it. So yeah, Ryan from Syntax and Satoshi from Astellas Venture Management. And we're gonna start a conversation really about, how these deals came together, right? So first, we're gonna go into quick introductions. So if you guys don't mind just telling us a little bit more about yourselves, the company that you represent, and I'm just gonna go with the flow and ask some follow-up questions. So Sarah?
Start. All right, thank you all for being here today, and hope it's interesting for you all. So my name is Sarah Hein. I'm co-founder, CEO for March Biosciences. Originally was trained as a PhD down in Houston, Texas at Baylor College of Medicine, actually, but very quickly departed into the world of startups, and I did a startup before this one. that actually we exited, and then I helped launch the accelerator for cancer therapeutics at TMC, Texas Medical Center. And then through that accelerator, met Max Momokin and then later Malcolm Brenner, and saw the technology that eventually became March Biosciences, and was sort of blown away. Was really fortunate that it was a cell therapy focused on a really underserved lymphoma population, which is called T-cell lymphoma, which is underserved across therapeutic indications. And unfortunately, when patients become relapsed or refractory, there really is no standard of care, and they have about a 10% survival. And here we had a cell therapy where we were seeing through some improvements in the product, about a 60% complete response rate. So really remarkable, best-in-class, first-in-class potential for a therapeutic. And so then it became a matter of how do you put a company together? And we're really fortunate through that. It's been a pretty rapid development over the last couple of years, but Portal was one of our seed investors. TMC Venture Fund was also one of our seed investors and partners along the way. And then we recently closed our Series A, co-led by Mission BioCapital and 4Bio. And we're starting our phase 2 right now. I'm pretty sure there's things happening while I'm here, so having fun.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah. Cassidy?
Sure. Hi, I'm Cassidy Blundell. I'm a partner with Mission BioCapital. Also, PhD scientist background. I trained at Penn in bioengineering and then joined Mission BioCapital. A little bit about our firm. We're very like-minded with the Portal team. So we are currently investing out of our 5th fund. It's a $275 million vehicle. We're focused on early stage life sciences and are closely affiliated with a network of innovation labs that now comprises 23 sites across the US and most recently Europe. Those 500 plus resident companies are a big source of our deal flow and investment activity, but we're not constrained to only investing in those companies. We're agnostic to therapeutic area and modality and generally allocate about $15 million over the lifetime of a company. And March was a great fit for what we were looking for. So we'll talk more about that in the panel today.
And this is our second investment together.
Yes, yeah.
So there you are, building the partnership.
Exactly.
Ryan?
Great, thanks everybody for being here. So I'm Clarke, I'm the co-founder and CTO of Syntax. The origin story of the company is we're based out of Chicago. The technology was developed at the University of Illinois based on my graduate school work. So was in a developmental biology lab, and we had a vision to basically apply developmental biology rules to stem cells in a synthetic biology way to make cell therapy manufacturing from iPS cells much more streamlined and efficient. That vision did not actually consummate immediately. The technology took a little while to get it working. So I actually moved to Boston and worked at Sana Biotechnology after I graduated for a couple of years. There I was exposed firsthand to the challenges with manufacturing this sort of cell therapies. And after enough frustration, I left with the person who sat next to me and co-founded the company. But we actually, rather than staying in Boston at the time, this is 2021, we came back to Chicago, and we were one of the first companies to move into Portal, actually. And I think one of the benefits of coming to Chicago was there is a lot of scientific talent, and there wasn't too much competition for it at the time, given that there wasn't that many startups. But Portal has been changing that because now a lot of their lab space is full. So Portal was part of our seed round along with DCVC Bio, and then they just co-led our Series A alongside Astellas Venture Management and Lumina Ventures.
Great, wonderful. So Satoshi, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and Astellas Venture Management?
Sure. Hi, I'm Satoshi Konagai, investment lead at Astellas Venture Management. And my background, I was a molecular biologist by training and started my industry career at Astellas Pharma. And it's almost 20 years now. I'm really surprised to say that I'm with Astellas for 20 years, such a long time. But I started my career, industry career as a pharmacology researcher. And luckily, I transitioned to the business side and joined the headquarters function, and then transitioned to the corporate venture capital function. So that's why I don't feel such a long time with Astellas. And I've been with Astellas Venture for about 4 years now. And we are, as you know, corporate venture capital, which means we are a strategic investor for our parent company, Astellas Pharma, which is headquartered in Japan. And we invest in early stage biotech companies which has the platform technology and or pipeline programs or assets, expecting to have opportunities in the future for us as partnership deals or licensing or M&A like things. So we invest in areas of interest for us as pharma, including oncology, cell therapy, ophthalmology, and gene therapy. And also looking at beyond that, which means we look at novel science, biology, or platform technologies, or anything looks innovative. And so, yeah, currently I'm more responsible for oncology investments, but open for any types of companies in biotech ecosystem. And also working with Portal and some other incubators to support early stage companies in different ways. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And I think for a lot of people here, it's refreshing to hear that you guys are still bullish on the cell therapy and gene therapy space. We're going to be discussing that a little bit because, as you can see, both of the portfolio companies here are cell therapy companies, which we all know it's been, a really hard time recently for them to, keep pushing this new modality forward. So we'll discuss a little bit more of that. But yeah, it's just really refreshing to hear that, Astellas still there. Okay, now we're going to dive into each of the deals. I'm going to start with the ladies first. So Sarah, maybe you can tell us a little bit more. What were the key steps you took to connect and secure Mission BioCapital as your lead investor for the Series A?
Yeah, it was a long conversation, right? These deals don't come together overnight. I think Nina and I were best friends there for a while. She still sometimes answers my phone calls. But, we were working together, putting together a strategy, working through the network at TMC as well, and with some of our other seed investors, and, trying to make sure we understood what the risk points were going to be as we sort of, you kind of have a tiered approach, right, to your fundraising. You start with closest in, and then you push outward so you can get that feedback and make sure your story's fully correct. For us, there was a number of things that we could do during that period to de-risk. We cleared an IND. That's always really helpful, particularly coming from an academic trial. We formed a partnership with Volney, cell therapy, where there's been a lot of scar tissue built up is because people have not always paid enough attention to manufacturing, I think. And so having people who had taken products all the way through commercial launch to help us ensure that our manufacturing was not just to industry standards today, but to where the industry is going, because it's still moving very, very quickly, was critical to, I think, all of our investors to ensuring that this was going to be a really robust deal. So I met Cassidy through all of that, and we had a great conversation, a lot of diligence, a lot of sort of trying to understand what the opportunities were and where we were going, and managed to pull together the syndicate.
That's great. So what do you think have been the main strategic advantages of working with Mission BioCapital?
I mean, so Missions takes a really nice holistic view. They go in a little bit earlier than some of the other funds, right? And I think I was talking at the dinner the other day. It was like, well, how do you put together a deal like this? It's like, well, I'll just be honest. There's not a ton of really hard conviction investors who form that opinion. And so once you get that initial lead sheet, it's a lot easier to pull together the syndicate. But getting your first sort of person to pull that in, put that down, and put that conviction together that this is going to be a space that's going to be valuable and they're willing to put their name on it, is an incredible opportunity. And then we worked again together to expand from that lead sheet to the eventual syndicate after that. So it's a team effort. It really is. It's a sport. It's a team sport, I would say.
Yes. Yeah, especially for a big round like yours.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the round, the size, and
so the round, we actually expanded it just a little bit, so about $29.5 million altogether, pulled into March, sitting on top of our prior investments and then some non-dilutive capital that we are very grateful to the great state of Texas for. We're sitting at about $53 million committed to the company, and that's what's allowing us to move into our phase 2 trial. So I told Cassidy, when we started, when we closed, I said, I'm going to get you a patient within 6 months. I think we're going to get there. So we're pushing really, really hard from close, which I don't think is a very common place to be for these companies.
Yeah, definitely. And so, you know, given the headwinds on the cell therapy, what do you think sets March Biosciences apart, right? Like,
we have unique targets. I mean, Cassidy could probably speak to what her opinion is, but my thesis when we put the company together is, at the end of the day, we're talking about a therapy that has curative potential. Obviously, we're still chasing down the rest of that clinical data and really proving that thesis out. But, we're in a business of trying to create medicines for people. And it's particularly in oncology, to me, the most compelling data is always going to be long-term survivors. And we had seen that already in the phase 1 trial. So if you have long-term survivors and you have a product and you can be smart, then it's an engineering problem. It's how do you figure out where are the risk points then to the rest of the development to make that a tractable product. That's why the manufacturing was so critical and has been, I think, our absolute focus over the majority of our life as a company, in building those partnerships with groups like Volney. Understand that we have put the right pieces to make this a commercially viable product. That was really, really critical. Getting CPRIT was critical. The partnership with Anderson through the Focus Fund, I think, is also important because it's those are some of the best in the world who are, as far as from the clinical standpoint, who understand what a great product looks like. And so to me, it wasn't is this the right drug class, or is this the cool drug class? It was we have data and we just have to figure out how to make this into a viable product.
yeah, and I think that's exactly what Portal saw when, we first met you.
Yeah.
Like, it was working in humans. And that's something that, it's rare to see a company that has gone so far, which is, non-dilutive money, and they have de-risked the technology so much until that point. And to your point about, non-dilutive capital, Houston, it's, for oncology, I would say one of the best places. And now with Portal there, I think we're, really leveraging a lot of that opportunity. And I know there's some people in the audience that are thinking about starting their oncology companies, and now they can with, Portal support. So I think that's very valuable as well. So Cassidy, given what Sarah was saying, cell therapy has been a very, tough sort of field lately. What really convinced you that March was the right company to back?
Yeah, as with any investment decision, right, there's a lot of factors that go into the final investment thesis. But when we were first connected to the March team, we were really excited about the potential to leverage CAR T to target malignant T cells, because that's something that as yet was untapped within the space. We were really impressed by the early data coming out of the phase 1 at Baylor. And then, of course, team is essential in making a decision. And we were just really amazed at the progress that had been made under Sarah's leadership and with Max's great scientific acumen down at Baylor. And then, as Sarah was touching on, a key piece of our approach at March as well was the complementarity with Volney. So Volney is another Mission BioCapital portfolio company. As Sarah described, they have a lot of CMC expertise, and it felt like such a natural fit that they could partner and kind of be the puzzle pieces that fit together and are stronger together to be able to move really quickly in the phase 2. Another piece, of course, is the capital efficiency of the company in this market in particular, to be able to have that really focused path to get into the phase 2. Leveraging non-dilutive sources of capital like CPRIT was certainly another plus. And then, syndicate in this day and age is also key. So we were thrilled to bring on 4Bio as a co-lead, also work with KDT, and then the seed syndicate with TMC and Portal. So it all kind of came together, and we were excited to be able to invest in the Series A and are excited to see what's to come this year. As Sarah said, it's going to be lots of news hopefully coming in the next several months.
Yeah, and I think I saw some people from KDT, but I think you guys met also at Portal event where you were pitching, and right after that they made a commitment. So that's sort of part of what we're doing here.
There was some diligence in between.
Of course.
Doesn't just happen over the line.
Yeah, I wish, right? We did have, though, a family office that almost instant. That was really nice.
That was nice. I want all my pitches from here on out to be like that.
Cool. And for Mission BioCapital, like long-term strategy for cell therapy.
Yep.
You have Volney, now you have March. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, it's hard to ignore the headwinds within the cell therapy space. You know, we're very focused on those two investments, excited about the clinical readout coming at March, and then what Volney is working on. You know, we see that the next frontier will be trying to, as I was saying, expand the use of cell therapy beyond just B-cell cancers, and also try and overcome many of the manufacturing challenges and the high cost of goods that's associated with modalities. We're hoping March and Volney can chip away at both of those obstacles. And then, you know, broadly, I'm interested to see this year, you know, there's going to be some outcomes in autoimmunity, solid tumors, and also in vivo CAR T. So I think there's still tremendous innovation and a lot of opportunity. So we'll see what 2025 has in store.
Wonderful. And last question before we move on to Syntex and Astellas. Given that March is based in Houston, not a very traditional, you know, biotech hub like San Francisco, San Diego, or Boston, what's your perspective when it comes to this, you know, what we call emerging biotech hubs? What do you think are their strengths?
Well, of course, there's great science all across the US, not just Boston, San Francisco. I mentioned I went to grad school in Philadelphia, an awesome ecosystem as well. I don't know if there's any Philly folks here. So, you know, from the Mission BioCapital perspective, we're certainly looking, our whole lab network is across the US and now in Europe. So we're seeing great companies from all of these geographies. So we don't want to miss anything great. And it's been a real pleasure to get to know the Houston ecosystem as we've invested in March and are starting to spend more time down there. So certainly we'll continue to be active and not just the two kind of leading areas of Boston and SF.
That's great. Thank you so much, ladies. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move on to Syntex and Astellas. And maybe we can start with Ryan just telling us, how do you guys meet?
Yeah, so it was in July of 2023, actually, at the ASCO event in Chicago. Portal was hosting a reception pitching event. And so we pitched and Satoshi was in the audience. And then obviously the rest is history. Just kidding, it took like 1.5 years to get the deal pulled together. But Satoshi was by our side pretty much the whole time. So after the initial pitch, it was about 5 to 6 months of diligence. And it was a really actually enjoyable process compared to some of the other ones I've been in. And so after that, then there was, you know, an approval to make an investment in Syntex, but because I'm not going to speak too much for you, Satoshi, but because they're a corporate venture arm, there's certain things they couldn't do, like they couldn't put the term sheet down, for example. So we had to navigate those waters while trying to find a term sheet. And then insiders, aka Portal, they just wrote the term sheet, and then that was how we could bring them on as a co-lead. And then that took another, 6 months to pull the syndicate together and finalize what the round size was going to be. But throughout that entire time, probably about 15 months, Satoshi was making introductions and taking all the diligence calls. Everybody wants to see if Astellas has done diligence, what do they think of the intellectual property? That's obviously a very nice thing to be able to just continuously throw to Satoshi. So very, very long journey, but here we are.
Okay, so it looks like the key benefits, which was my next question, it's really about kind of leveraging Astellas expertise as someone that, they're already committed to the company, and really Satoshi's, flexibility to really meet with a lot of investors. And I think we also have Illumina Ventures here, which also joined the syndicate for that. And, now we're all good friends, but I don't think that, we knew each other much before. So it's nice to see how a strategic could really play, again, a strategic role when it comes to like building a syndicate and bringing other people around the table. So I guess for Astellas, what was, what attracted you, what motivated you to invest in Syntex, and how that does align with your broader strategy?
Yeah, as Ryan mentioned, it's not a short journey, but it's a long, winding way to the completion of the investment. But as a strategic investor, it is important to kind of gain agreement or alignment with the parent company R&D. And of course, Astellas has invested in cell therapy and gene therapy novel modalities significantly in the past, starting from the acquisition of biotech companies and another acquisition of some complementary technologies and expansion to immuno-oncology cell therapy product development. And what is important for us is that, again, alignment with the Astellas internal kind of strategy. And we felt the unmet needs in the manufacturing of the allogeneic iPSC-derived cell therapy product development, which is, as Sarah mentioned, manufacturing in terms of efficiency or quality of products and some other regulatory hurdles or any other types of things. And we see Syntax Bio technology can be a complementary to the internal existing capability for us. And I, communicated with the Astellas cell therapy team and headquarters and different functions to convince the technology's potential to how it impacts our Astellas capability in the future. And that's the long way, a long story in short. But I believe in the end, I successfully gained approval from our investment committee and alignment with Astellas R&D team. That's how we made it to the end.
Yeah, definitely a lot of moving pieces, bringing all the Astellas,
that's true.
Different departments to back a company still in very early stages.
Yeah.
So Ryan, what's been the main, impact on Syntax trajectory once you started sort of collaborating with Astellas? How has that changed the company?
So from a fundraising standpoint, there's a few like obvious things, and Satoshi is obviously more than just a logo on a slide, but that does have some serious impact, especially if you are like preclinical in a space that is considered extremely high risk and almost radioactive, if you will. It was untouchable by a lot of investors for a little while. But if Astellas has conviction in the space, then obviously they know a lot about this sector. So that's extremely helpful. And then from an R&D perspective, as Satoshi was saying, there had to be buy-in from their cell therapy team, and they would actually have to want to use the technology. So we started an initial collaboration that has been expanding over the last about 9 months or so, where we're streamlining one of their manufacturing processes for a clinical asset. And that has been extremely valuable from the sense that, well, it's external validation because they're testing the technology in their hands at the same time as we are optimizing their process in-house. And what's really great about this division within Astellas is they're completely vertically integrated from preclinical all the way through clinical manufacturing of the product. So what we are learning as an early stage company that has one process development person and everybody's pretty much a discovery stage scientist is what that looks like, because they're providing input very early on what is relevant or irrelevant or important or not for developing the next generation product.
Great. We're about to finish, so I know there's some people in the back. If you guys can just keep it a little bit quieter, we would appreciate that. Thank you. Just going back and wrapping up the conversation here. Again, Syntax is based in Chicago, where Portal started. Satoshi, is your first investment in a non-traditional biotech hub and thinking of doing more, and how do you think these new markets are going to change the biotech industry as a whole? Because we are seeing new markets kind of racing to be kind of a really strong biotech hub.
Yeah, this is not the first investment for us outside Boston and the Bay Area. And we have active portfolio companies in Texas areas. And also we have invested in the areas or countries like Japan or UK, and looking at new investment opportunities globally. And we see some emerging technologies and the companies in those new emerging areas. And but it's still difficult for us to identify those innovative companies. And so, but they exist. And so we don't much care about the geographic location of the company unless they are, let's say, in North Pole or in the middle of desert, which are difficult to access or difficult to get out. But I understand this emerging biotech ecosystem has some strong background, like the academic institutions or universities or incubators and the human capital and financial capital. And so Yeah, it's great to see more and more companies and ecosystems growing outside both coasts.
Yeah.
And looking forward to see more and more.
Yeah, and I think we can all agree that we're seeing different flavors, right? Like some can tell like Boston is different from San Francisco, Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, and so many others also have their strengths and they're bringing something new to the industry. And then we think that that's going to really transform the way that we think about biotech by kind of bringing all the different flavors together. So that's it for us. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about the story of these two wonderful companies. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you guys. And we're gonna, be there for you as you guys grow at Portal. And hopefully we're gonna be here next year and in 2 years maybe, talking about the Series B. So thank you so much. And I'll pass it on to Anna again to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Ryan, for sharing your journey. It's been incredible to get to know you as founders, fantastic founders, but also as friends. And Satoshi and Cassidy, thank you for your early commitment in these companies. You have been bullish since the beginning, and we are so grateful for that. And the success of these companies is because of that bullishness. So thank you. And to close out our program, I am so excited to introduce Emily Park from DCVC, as well as bring back John Flavin, CEO and founder of Portal, to the stage. Emily and John will be talking a little bit about their perspectives on investing in these new ecosystems, building companies, and what to expect in 2025. You're not going to want to miss this. Welcome to the stage.
Thanks, Anna. And, this will be kind of a lightning round to summarize and then carry on to the remaining part of this festive audience and interaction. Although Satoshi, we are looking very closely at the North Pole. There's very interesting microorganisms that are below the ice, and there's a community forming around it. So we're going to take a close look. But on a serious note, really delighted to talk to my friend and colleague, Emily Park from DCVC Bio. DCVC Bio has been a strong partner to Portal Innovations as we continue to grow and diversify the investments that we make. As I mentioned in my opening comments, Portal's whole model is premised on finding world-class partners that can help us take our companies all the way, and DCVC Bio meets that profile. So as I kick things off, Emily, maybe just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, and then more about DCVC Bio.
Thank you for having me on this panel. It's great to see all these people from, non-Boston, non-San Francisco areas. So I'm Emily Park. I'm a principal at DCVC Bio. Started my career, I trained as a physician and then started my career as a biotech equities analyst at Goldman Sachs, and then transitioned to work in biotech public equities at Point72 Asset Management, which is a hedge fund, and recently joined DCVC Bio about a year ago to work on the private side.
That's great. Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about the DCVC Bio strategy?
Sure. Yeah, so we're very focused on seed and Series A. We currently have 4 funds now, and I think our AUM is now over $1 billion. Always looking for platform therapeutics that can actually produce multiple assets. And we like to be very involved, lead the round. We'll also syndicate rounds and also join the board as well.
Yeah, and from my own experience, just actively helping build the company, there's a building mentality and a builder's mindset, around the table with experienced people that have kind of done it before.
Right.
Maybe just diving a little bit more deeply, we've had the opportunity to co-invest together on a handful of opportunities, and we get the chance to kind of look at deal flow across each of the ecosystems that we're fortunate to be a part of. Maybe you could just comment about your experience there, and again, looking beyond, your origins here in the Bay Area. What are the appeals? What are some of the challenges to other ecosystems?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, at least for us, geography is certainly not a constraint, especially because we're always looking for platforms that can create multiple assets in the therapeutic space. You know, we know that those ideas aren't always constrained to the Bay Area or San Diego or Boston. Like they can come out of universities anywhere. And we, you know, as you mentioned, we've invested with Portal in the Chicago area. Those technologies can come out of all the great universities across the United States. And sometimes we also invest slightly outside of the United States in Canada or in the UK. And then I think the other thing is the reason that we invest in therapeutics platforms is because once you have one asset that comes out of that platform, it validates that whole platform and sort of uncompresses the value of the entire company. And so that's why our investment thesis is so much on platform, which I think is probably a little different in this current fundraising environment. But we still very much hold that thesis to be true.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is interesting about this time, science is moving very quickly. Everybody talks, you know, use the word convergence, you know, whether it's computing and AI as applied to any element or along the whole pathway of drug discovery and development and clinical support. You know, Portal's belief is that it's more likely that new business models will arise in riskier environments. And, you know, that convergence then may happen more readily because it has to. You have to be able to or want to take higher risks. I know when I was building my companies in Chicago, I kind of always felt like it was like free soloing. And so there was a bit of a badge of honor of not only am I an entrepreneur trying to build a company, but we're trying to build an ecosystem at the same time. I wonder if you find that same kind of, you know, as you look to make investments, whether it's, you know, partnering with Portal or others, what are some of the features that might be attractive? Or do you agree with that convergence idea that you're going to see more of these new business models arise in potentially emerging or different places?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the convergence or, you know, maybe emergence of new business models is an attractive way to look at investments. But just kind of taking a few steps back, I think at the end of the day, like as an investor, like half of my job is to, you know, find new companies and invest in them. But the other half is actually a lot about risk management. And some piece of that is finding the companies that have some sort of scientific or strategic edge. So you kind of mentioned new business models, and that's part of the strategic edge that we look for. But anytime anyone's, you know, investing in a company, building a company, you really want to think about, you know, what am I doing a little bit better than all the other players in the field? And so I think convergence is important, but then beyond that, there's, you know, so much to think about just on the strategy side as a business side and also on the science side. Like, is there something that I truly have an edge on? And I will also say, like, you know, you could have an amazing idea, but then it really comes down to, can I execute upon this idea as a company? You could also have a mediocre idea and have amazing execution and build an amazing company. So those are kind of the different ways we think about like risk and how we invest in different companies.
Well, one big factor is, you know, as you're making investments, as you said, your preferred position is to lead the transaction, but you're often working with other syndicate partners. Mm-hmm. What are some of the features of those syndicate partners that you're looking to invest with? You know, from our standpoint, you know, we're really trying to build strong partnerships from the academic and the medical center on out. So Texas Medical Center Innovations, you know, in Helix Park in Houston being a strong example, building from that rock and foundation and scaling University of Chicago and what we're doing there with kind of quantum and life sciences, trusted partners, you know, believing in the same vision, exposure to different ideas. But I wonder what your criteria are when you think about investment with syndicate partners.
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like there's not really like a checklist. It's every new company is its own, let's say, child. You know, can't make every child become a doctor or become a, you know, a banker or whatever it is. I think it's really about, you know, if, you know, in an ideal world, you have a very experienced entrepreneur who's got a drug approved, right? But in the reality, when you're taking technologies out of academic centers, that's not always the case. But we're comfortable with that as long as the person and the team is coachable, in the sense that they know that there are things that are blind spots or things that they don't know, and they're willing to go out and find the people who can help them understand where the landmines are in the path. So I think it's, obviously the science has to be strong on the team. The team should be coachable, like willing to learn the things they don't know. And then on the syndicate side, I think we have to have a shared conviction that we understand where this company is going together. And, they also need to have the capital to be able to fund that company, not just in one round, but in multiple rounds, all the way to, acquisition or IPO or whatever the exit may be.
Yeah, and I mean, the experience that we've had working together, I feel like DCVC Bio brings a special, unique, and very complementary perspective to the things that we're doing. I mean, we're on the ground kind of helping build the company in the trenches, but having that market access and insights that are additive to our own, both at the diligence phase, should we make the investment? But then every decision that you make along the way, your connection to the broader investment community, and that includes pharma companies in business development and all those kinds of exit places along the way. I know from our perspective, we really gain and benefit from that synergistic value. If you look at the future, what does 2025 hold, and what are some of the things that you're looking at within your strategy?
Yes. I mean, I feel like, science is doing great. Like, we see amazing technologies all the time. We sometimes turn down investments, not because we don't love the technology. There's usually other elements. I think the thing that's really been handicapping biotech in the past year or so has been the cost of capital. You can see that in the difficulty of fundraising. You can see that in the IPO markets. Thankfully, we're finally in the first quarter and a half of a Fed easing cycle. So I'm definitely cautiously optimistic that the IPO markets will open up, fundraising will get a little better, and continue to fund the innovation that biotech is working so hard to achieve. So I would say cautiously optimistic. The more M&A that pharma gifts all of us, the better it is for everyone.
Yeah, and ideally with the new administration, maybe a friendlier FTC.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Seems to be a supportive, with Dr. Macri at the FDA.
I agree, yeah. I think there's a lot of things to be optimistic about in 2025.
Emily, it's a true pleasure and an honor to partner with you and the team at DCVC Bio. And thanks so much for the conversation today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. That concludes our information session. We're so grateful. We know you had a lot of opportunities to choose from this morning. So thank you for choosing the Portal Innovations and JP Morgan Catalyzing Life Science event, the Portal Formula. Have a great conference.